Tim's news explosion. 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 Tim's news explosion.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Tim's News Explosion on this Cyber Monday, the 28th of November, 2022. So Cyber Monday is your last chance to grab any Black Friday sales discounts because the sales go all weekend in this globalized world of ours. And remember, there won't be sales like this again until the Boxing Day New Year sales. We are live on the Wilmsfront YouTube, D-Live and Odyssey channels, as well as on the Interactive Entropy software. You can send through a super chat to support Unshackled Productions or send a direct question. Good to see everyone back from Saturday night. Lady of Charlotte says, I'll buy some more black pills. P. Cosiman says, yeah, everything sucks. And Castle Match says the Victorian Liberal Party is irredeemable at this point. Well, it is 8:30 p.m. here in Melbourne, Victoria, at the beginning of Dan Andrews' third term as Premier, and his Labor government was re-elected in Saturday's election, and Dan Andrews has been returned as nothing's formal yet, but he's projected to retain his own seat of Mulgrave. So let's have a look at where things stand with the count at the moment. We'll look at the ABC's official results. So this is how as things stand at the moment. So ALP 51 out of 88 lower house seats, the LNP 25, the Greens 4, and there being no independents. So seats in doubt. Bass in Melbourne's outer southeast, the ALP is slightly ahead. The seat of Hastings on the Western Port side of the Mornington Peninsula, Labor is ahead with their celebrity candidate, Paul Mercurio from Strictly Ballroom. In Hawthorn, John Pesciuto looks like he will re-enter Parliament, beating both Labor and the Teal candidate there. Mornington, a former federal Liberal MP, Chris Cruther, is slightly ahead of the Teal challenger. But yeah, if you have a look at some of when the last results were fed into the tally. So Mornington, it was on Sunday morning at 1:42 a.m. When you look at Hastings, 1:15 a.m. Now, of course, Narrabeen is normally a safe Liberal seat. It's been deferred because of the death of the National Party candidate. Northcote, the ALP is ahead of the Greens there. Pakenham, which is also in Melbourne's outer southeast, is also neck and neck. That result hasn't been updated since yesterday. And then in the inner Melbourne seat of Preston, keeps going in between Labor, the Greens, and the independent candidates. So Labor has a majority in the lower house. In the upper house, the count continues, and one of the upsides about group voting tickets is that it can give provisional results quite quickly based on the calculators that Anthony Green puts into the ABC. Teals didn't do so well. That was one of the silver linings there. Castle Match, P. Cosman says not a single seat was won by the Freedom Movement, not one. That's it, kaput, done, finished, all over Red Rover. Well, there is hope in the Northern Victoria region. where the One Nation candidate up there, Ricky Lee Tyrrell, is in 4th place there, just behind, or just in front of, I should say, the Animal Justice Party candidate, Georgia Purcell. Of course, the big winner from the Legislative Council results so far is the Legalize Cannabis Party. They could win up to 3 seats. The Fiona Patton looks like she's going to be re-elected. Jeff Borman from the Shooters and Farmers Party looks like he's going to be re-elected. A wipeout for Darren Hinch's Justice Party there. So the Labor Party looks like it's lost 3 seats, which is good, but the Greens have gained 2 seats. Liberal Party have gained 2. The Nationals 2. So the others 4, that's 3 legalized cannabis and 1 DLP in the northeastern metropolitan region there. So just go in there. Oh no, it's DLP is not there at the moment. So it looks the second Liberal candidate is there, but DLP is a chance in the northeastern metro region. But as you have a look at how much is counted in each region, only 50%, and then they've got to count all the below the line votes as well. So where the voters who voted below the line, such as myself, we chose our preferences. So they all get, well, as the VEC, they're providing updates. They've got their, I'll go to their sorting fact from fiction, and they've got a misinformation register. So what is that? They describe misinformation as when the information is spread that is believed to be true by those who are sharing it, but which is actually incorrect. Disinformation is when information is designed to be deliberately mislead and influence public opinion and obscure the truth for malicious and deceptive purposes. So it's got in its misinformation register here, misinformation. The VEC uses Dominion or Smartmatic vote counting software. Fact, lower house ballot papers are counted by hand under the supervision of scrutineers. Upper house ballots are counted using software that has been developed in-house and has been independently audited. And it also goes here, the VEC use pencils at voting centers so we can change your vote. Fact, we offer pencils at voting centers because they do not dry out or get jammed like pens can. You're welcome to bring your own pen if you like. Scrutineers are appointed by each candidate and can observe all aspects of ballot handling, such as vote counting. They challenge us if they think we've made a mistake. And they've also got their daily update here. So what did they do today? So they did rechecks of votes counted in voting centers and early voting centers, and the two candidate preferred and recheck of votes taken by the telephone assisted voting center will commence at the centralized activity center for all districts by 2 p.m. and list otherwise candidates. They list what are the close seats, and the incorrect 2 candidate preferred predictions. The 2 candidate preferred TCP count is intended to provide an early indication of election result, but has no status in determining the actual outcome. The following 2 candidate prefers that's a tongue twister. The following 2 candidate preferred predictions were incorrect. And so this is where it's not classic Liberal Labor. It can be Liberal Labor, Independent, Green, Teal, whatever. And so the upper house count. So first preference primary counts occur at the early voting centers, with the exception of votes from the Melbourne district early voting. You get the idea here. So there's the votes that are slower to count because if it are the postals and absent votes. So a vote cast on election day at a voting center outside the district, the voter is enrolled to and postal cast by vote. Because if you actually will go back to the live results, and we'll go for the full party totals here. So two candidate preferred estimates. So Labor 54, Coalition 46. That's a 3.6% swing to the LNP. But because the swing away from Labor was in their safe northern seats, where the residents up there did it extremely tough and brutal during lockdown, because they're incredibly safe Labor seats. They didn't lose them. In fact, it doesn't look like there'll be much change to the makeup of the chamber, because Labor actually won a few seats in the eastern suburbs, where the middle class, laptop class were pretty okay with lockdowns, and rewarded Dan Andrews and Labor for it. But if you have a look, only 68.5% counted. Counting's finished for the day, so still a lot to count. And so Amos Morris says Labor lost 7% of its primary vote but gained 2 seats. Rotten system. Well, that's when there's 88 individual electorates. We don't have a proportional representation system. That sometimes there can be changes in primary votes, but not in the actual distribution of seats. Now, something unusual happened on election day, that some polling stations ran out of ballots. I've never heard of this happening in Australian elections. It happens in the US. So the VEC posted, we are aware of a limited number of voting centres running out of printed district ballot papers earlier today. This may have been because people voting outside of their district. How do you run out of ballots for the local district then? That doesn't make sense. Replacement ballots were provided to each voting centre. No voters were turned away or missed out on voting due to this. In the interim, voters were provided with blank ballots with candidates' names handwritten on the ballot. This is an acceptable approach in this situation. And also, the VEC addressed the situation in Mulgrave, where the two-party preferred count is wrong, because it's between the Labor candidate, Dan Andrews, who currently is above 50% primary vote, and the two-party preferred is between him and the Liberal challenger, Michael Piastrino, who actually finished third. Independent Ian Cook, of course, of I Cook Foods, whose business was shut down by Dan Andrews' Chief Health Officer Brett Sutton. So they said on Twitter, we understand a candidate in Mulgrave has requested a corrected 2 candidate preferred count. This is not a recount. Recounts occur close to final results, which won't be known for several days. And they say that a 2 candidate preferred is indicative only. It does not determine the outcome of an election. Before election day, we chose the 2 candidates we think most likely to be in the lead. Sometimes this 2CP is incorrect. It is too early at this stage to say who is most likely to finish second in Mulgrave, but due to the significant margin in this district, we will not be correcting the 2 candidate preferred. Remember, the 2CP count is for information only and there's no bearing on the outcome of election. So that sounds like that they're not going to correct that two-party preferred, even though Ian Cook is second, because they seem to say that Dan Andrews is so far ahead. And so they replied to this question by Liza, at the risk of having my question ignored as it was the last 3 times, how does this affect statistics going forward? Maybe I'm incorrect, but I assumed winning margins and swings were based off the closest contender, not third place. And they say the 2CP count has no bearing on the election outcome, is an indicative count, repeating the same thing, and is aimed at providing an early indication of who a successful candidate may be. We conduct full preference distributions for districts where there isn't an absolute majority, i.e. when a candidate receives less than 50% of the vote. We'll know which district these are when votes have been admitted to the count. You can track our daily counting activities. So it doesn't sound like the VEC is not going to release a full distribution of preferences there, which I believe happens at the federal level, which, as that questioner there, Emily, said that the the two-party preferred result is used by election statisticians for calculating margins and swings in preparation for the next election there. So that is quite unusual there. Now, despite these the count taking, what is it, the VC has said, up to 2 weeks, and deciding, determining who's elected to the upper house will take even longer. But Matthew Guy did concede the election on election night to Dan Andrews. So what is in store for Dan Andrews' third term? He has committed to serving the full 4 years as Premier. So what can we expect? Well, let's see what he said in his opening remarks in his election victory speech.
Yes. Leadership isn't about doing what's popular. Leadership is about doing what's right. Leadership is about doing what matters. These last few years have been incredibly challenging. We've had to make some very difficult decisions, some very tough decisions, and Victorian families and businesses right across our state have had a very difficult time. This was a 1 in 100 year event. And because of the tough decisions that we made, and as important, in some respects even more importantly, the fact that Victorians stuck together, the fact that Victorians, through kindness and compassion, through connection and care, looked out for each other, went and got vaccinated, because vaccines work. Because as a community, we were not, as some would say, divided. We were instead united in our faith in science and in our faith and care for and in each other. That sense of kindness, that sense of connection, that sense that we are all in this together has been confirmed today as well. Friends, hope always defeats hate.
I mean, the nerve of him to say that his side of politics is about kindness and care, and that he defeated hate. I mean, he, through his daily press conferences during his lockdowns, he was one of the biggest, I would say, meanies I have ever seen. He was certainly not kind or nor compassion. I always say, Victoria Police is coming after you. Don't do this, don't do that. Otherwise, I'll lock down you for longer. Caring about human rights and freedoms is selfish and stupid. I mean, like, it's the gaslighting was on full display in that speech there, basically saying that he believes that his pandemic policies, the lockdowns, the vaccine mandates were all vindicated there. And obviously the alarming thing is it sounds like that if needed, he'd do it all again, and that the majority of Victorian public would be fine with that. Picosman says, so apparently the Shrine of Remembrance means nothing then. Might as well tear it down there. Senator Slayer says, love defeated hate this election. It's sort of similar to Hillary Clinton's slogan, which thankfully she lost. Love trumps hate. Senator Slayer says, Tim, was there election fraud? I don't know. I went through the questions that people have for the VC. There's still 30% of the vote further to count. Now, because Dan Andrews, he only needs to serve until Easter next year to become the longest serving Labor Premier in Victoria's history. Henry Bolte, Liberal Premier for 17 years, is still the longest serving Premier. when he serves when he knocks up 3,000 days in office, he will get a bronze statue. And Australians versus the Agenda, Anthony Kaloof, did a mashup of what's likely to happen to this bronze statue of Dan.
Next year, Daniel Andrews will reach 2 other significant milestones. He'll become the longest-serving Labor Premier, and on his 3,000th day in the job, he'll earn himself a bronze statue.
Yes, and so like I said on election night, I'm not inciting anyone to do anything, to use that terminology, but if that statue does get erected, and the next day Dan was asked about it and he said he wasn't fussed about getting a statue, probably because he knows that it would be constantly vandalized or taken down or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of people who would absolutely be disgusted by that statue in the same way that many of us are disgusted by statues of Vladimir Lenin and Karl Marx. Now, the Mayor of Melbourne, Sally Capp, more like Sally Crap, she just on Friday before the election said in a speech that the lockdown was actually good for Melbourne. So she said that at a TEDx Melbourne talk, or well, it was pre-released remarks, pre-recorded remarks, there aren't many who will stand in front of a crowd like this and say COVID has been good for anything or anyone, Miss Capp is expected to say at the TEDx Melbourne event. And then she says, now that's what she said. She claims that economic activity in Melbourne has recovered to pre-pandemic levels and will total 150 billion by 2031. Now, that's what I call lockdown to boomtown. Melbourne has emerged bruised but bolder and braver because of it all. It's thanks to the debilitating impacts of COVID, the 262 days of a broken city and community, that we have achieved the seemingly impossible. Period. Taken risks, dreams big, and accelerated progress, she stated in the speech. So that's basically the Build Back Better message, because Melbourne's CBD and spirit was so crushed by Dan Andrews' lockdowns that, well, of course, it was always going to be activity was going to re-emerge, but she's obviously claiming that yes, it's better than it was before. Now, the birthplace of lockdowns and COVID zero, which Australia and particularly Victoria adopted in 2020, 2021, communist China. The virus began in Wuhan, China, where they did the full lockdown, or locked them up in their apartments and weld the doors. Well, now the Chinese people are finally, because Xi Jinping is still maintaining COVID zero 2.5 years after, well, it's 3 years since the virus first emerged in China, despite the administering of the Sinovac vaccine. In his re-election pitch for an unprecedented third term as a Chinese president, he was elected by his CCP lackeys. Obviously, there's no democracy in China. It's a one-party totalitarian dictatorship. The people have finally had enough there, and I'll just play the montage here. So it all began. So this is a flyer that was at an apartment tower in Irvine, Xinjiang province. 10 people died in this lockdown apartment tower because the fire brigade couldn't get there because of the COVID lockdown. This is where a lot of Uyghurs live as well. And this was in Shanghai, the protests. This triggered this fire, this death in the name of COVID zero, that has triggered an outpouring of anger and grief from people that died. This is in Shanghai, where they're shouting, "We want freedom," down with Xi Jinping, down with CCP. This is in Beijing, where they're tearing down the barricades there, the lockdown barricades there. So this type of protest rebellion, open, and this is the Foxconn iPhone factory in Xinjiang there, because the workers, they've been forced to live in that factory away from their families because of COVID outbreaks there. And this is in Wuhan, so it's come full circle, and this is what you can hear with gunshots there. What sounds like gunshots there. So what is going to happen? Because the CCP has not had an open rebellion against the party and against the president since 1989, and we all know what happened with Tiananmen Square. It was a brutal crackdown against the largely young student activists. Once the tanks came in and massacred them, then the secret police, they rounded up the ringleaders and protesters in the middle of the night, and not a lot of the CCP police were standing back there. That's because obviously 33 years after Tiananmen Square, the CCP has their vast internet surveillance state, so they're obviously taking notice of who's there, and they'll track them down with their facial recognition and get their social credit score to zero and disable their health pass, and they'll probably be the goons in the middle of the night. Obviously, for those who know the history of the CCP, they believe that why the Soviet Union collapsed and Mikhail Gorbachev oversaw the dissolution of the Soviet Union is because he allowed protests to happen. So don't underestimate the brutality and bloodshed that the CCP would undertake to maintain power. But the thing is, they've said that they're doing this zero COVID because they want to save lives, and if they send in the tanks to massacre people, then what is it? They're massacring people to save people. And one of the because there's so many CCP COVID zero simps in the Western world, and they say, oh, we should hope that CCP maintains COVID zero because, well, as you saw with the iPhone factory there, the Western supply chains will be crippled, and apparently, remember how we're all supposed to pay high food prices and high fuel prices to show solidarity with the defense of Ukraine, but apparently, according to these people, that it's too much to ask to give up the latest iPhone to support freedom for the Chinese people against CCP tyranny. I mean, I'd happily give up the latest iPhone here if it meant that the Chinese people could be finally freed from that totalitarian surveillance and now biosecurity state. I mean, they're risking a lot there. They could be killed, locked up forever. Their families could be killed, locked up forever. And this is basically the whole whole approach that, well, the West copying the CCP lockdown, now it's coming back full circle. Now, this the fact that the Chinese people are revolting and want freedom, I mean, we should now this should be a lesson to, like, it should dawn on people in the West now who thought that the CCP lockdowns were the way to go, is that now we should pledge never again. I mean, look at what is happening to the place which pioneered the COVID response. And as we've seen the stats, the places that didn't lock down, Sweden and Florida. Sweden has done much better than all of the rest of the world in terms of excess deaths. So has other Nordic countries that didn't have a brutal lockdown, like Norway and Denmark and Finland. And of course, Florida has done well. It was done around about the same, if not better, for age-adjusted mortality than places that did brutally lock down, like New York and California. I'm a Stupid Moron says, "Wow, Tim seems pretty pissed tonight. Maybe Dan getting re-elected is making him angry." Well, I certainly don't want a repeat of what we saw in Dan's second term to happen in his third term. And it's good to see that that Dan's fanboy Xi Jinping is finally having some pushback against him there. And obviously, this is not the first widespread rebellion we have seen in a totalitarian country. The protests in Iran triggered by the death in custody of that young woman who was arrested for not wearing a hijab. It's still going there. That revolution, you could call it, rebellion against the theocratic Sharia regime there in Iran. And the Iranian men's football team, in their first game against England, they did not sing their national anthem, which is a lot more gutsy, standing up to your own country, than the England captain Harry Kane wanting to wear a Rainbow One Love armband. I mean, they could face sanction when they get back to Iran. Those players, they did sing the anthem in their second game against Wales, which they beat 2-0. The World Cup is certainly showing up some quite incredible, strange results. Japan, who beat Germany in the first lot of matches, lost to Costa Rica last night. And we also saw Germany bounce back against Spain, 1-1. And of course, Australia, while we're on air on election night, beat Tunisia 1-0, which means our destiny is in our own hands. If Australia beats Denmark on Wednesday morning at 2 a.m., then through to the round of 16 for the first time since 2006. Lady of Charlotte says, the rainbow Rolex Kane was wearing was disgusting. They managed to make an expensive watch look cheap and nasty. Well, he managed to, because it was on his watch, get away with it. It wasn't obvious that the Qatari authorities could get it off him, because they've continued to turn away Westerners from stadiums wearing rainbow outfits. Now let's move over to the United States, where, of course, we've had Donald Trump. He has announced that he is going to be seeking a second term, have another crack at a second term in 2024, running for the Republican nomination. But there is now another maverick, madman, stable genius, eccentric candidate in the 2024 election, and that is Ye, the rapper formerly known as Kanye West, who had a much publicized dinner at Mar-a-Lago with Trump, where he brought Nick Fuentes, host of America First, who was called by the mainstream media a white supremacist, even though he's helping to run the campaign of a black man. And also with them was Milo Yiannopoulos as well, who we haven't seen for a number of years, though he was on Tim Pool shows recently. So Ye released his first presidential campaign advertisement on Twitter. But that's not it.
I think the thing that Trump was most perturbed about, me asking him to be my vice president, I think that was like lower on the list of things that caught him off guard. It was the fact that I walked in with intelligence. So Trump is really impressed with Nick Fuentes. And Nick Fuentes, unlike so many of the lawyers and so many people that he was left with on his 2020 campaign, he's actually a loyalist. When he didn't know what the lawyers is, you'll still have your lawyer list. And when all the lawyers said, forget it, Trump's done, there were loyalists running up in the White House, right? And my question would be, why, when you had the chance, did you not free the January 6ers? And I came to him as someone who loves Trump, and I said, go and get Corey back. Go and get these people that the media tried to cancel and told you to step away from. He basically gives me this would-be mob-esque kind of story, talking to some kid from the south side of Chicago trying to sound mobby or whatever. He goes into the story about all that he went through to get Alice Johnson out of jail and how he didn't do it for Kim, but he did it for me. But then he goes on to say that Kim is a and you could tell her I said that. And I was thinking, like, that's the mother of my children. Since we know, and all the Christians in America that love Trump know that Trump is a conservative, we're going to demand that you hold all policies directly to the Bible. When Trump started basically screaming at me at the table, telling me I was going to lose, I mean, has that ever worked for anyone in history?
You're going to lose. Tell him he's going to lose.
I'm like, well, hold on, Trump. You're talking to Ye.
Perfect.
And as you heard Ye there, he said that Trump liked Nick Fuentes, and obviously the neocons in the Republican Party, such as Mike Pompeo and Chris Christie, said that Trump shouldn't have been in the same room as anti-Semites. And so Trump put out a statement on Truth Social, talking about the dinner, and I'll try to read it in my best Trump voice. So I help a seriously troubled man who just happens to be black, Kanye West, who has been decimated in his business and virtually everything else, who has always been good to me by allowing his request for a meeting at Mar-a-Lago alone so that I can give him very much needed advice. He shows up with 3 people, 2 of which I didn't know, the other a political person who I have not seen in years. I told him, don't run for office, total waste of time, can't win, fake news, went crazy. And also not happy that Trump was in the same dinner room as Ye, Milo, and Nick Fuentes was Ben Shapiro of the Daily Wire, who tweeted, and I'll try to read this in my Ben Shapiro voice. A good way not to accidentally dine with vile racists and anti-Semites you don't know is to not dine with a vile racist and anti-Semite you do know. Sounded similar to my Trump voice there. I don't think I can. Maybe I need to sort of train my Ben Shapiro voice. Now, Ye responded on Twitter with the fact that the Daily Wire received $100,000 from Ron DeSantis, Trump's the governor of Florida, who many pundits believe is the main challenger to Trump in the Republican primaries, even though DeSantis hasn't announced anything. He's only just been re-elected. So Ben Shapiro responded to Yee's tweet. Shapiro starvingly accept $100,000 from one of my opponents, then tries to trash me. Sadly, you've trashed yourself, Shapiro says. You didn't need my help. It wasn't me. It wasn't the Jews. It was you. And Shapiro's co-founder at the Daily Wire, Jeremy Borang, he was too honest here. He says, we've accepted far more than that from your opponents. DeSantis has rented our list. Trump has rented our list. Virtually every major Republican figure has rented our lists at some point. Stupid arguments. So basically, Jeremy Borang is admitting that the Daily Wire gives, and it sounds like they sell their mailing lists, well, their supporters' data to Republican candidates there, which is quite outrageous. Like, you sign up for a Daily Wire newsletter or a Daily Wire Plus, and you get all these spam from Republican candidates who you might not support. Email lists. Boring, that's his real name. Heck, yes. Well, that's how it's pronounced. Boring. And now you heard Yee claim that Trump called his ex-wife Kim Kardashian a disgusting word. Kim Kardashian has finally broken her silence on the heinous Balenciago scandal, that high fashion retailer, who you will remember last week released on their Instagram photos of young children holding teddy bears in bondage, and also at the they've posted a photo of a handbag, and underneath was a Supreme Court decision, Ashcroft versus Free Speech Coalition, which was a Supreme Court case which wound back a couple of clauses in a law against child pornography. I think it rolled back some of the laws against virtual child pornography. I haven't read in detail the decision myself, but basically what that implied is that Balenciago were basically double checking that they could get away with a photo shoot like that it was all lawful according to the Supreme Court precedents. That was probably the thing that confirmed that, yeah, this was, this was not meant to be an innocent photo shoot, and it was meant to be a perverse, disgusting, and child abusing photo shoot. And it was also picked up in another Balenciago photo, that in another photo, there is a book on the shelf by Michael Bormans, an artist who created Fire from the Sun, which is a series of paintings depicting naked toddlers. Now, this is just what Balenciago has decided to share with the world. Like, imagine what else is on their bookshelves and what other documents are in their offices, or what's on the, what else is there. I mean, we're just seeing what they're posting openly, publicly. And so they nuked their Instagram, and they have now nuked their Twitter as well. They tried to blame the photographer for this, Balenciago, but the photographer said, like, look, I just took the photos. Like, I didn't have any say on what was there, the models. And of course, being a high-end fashion retailer, Balenciago, there would be so many steps between pre-production, designing the photo shoot, taking the photos, then choosing which one to put, and then publicizing it in a campaign. So Kim Kardashian, she's come out around about 6 days later to denounce Balenciago because she had worked with them. So she said, I've been quiet for the past few days, not because I haven't been disgusted and outraged by the recent Balenciago campaigns, but I wanted an opportunity to speak to their team to understand for myself how this could have happened. And she goes on to say, as a mother, I have been shaken by the disturbing images. The safety of children must be held with the highest regard, and any attempts to normalize child abuse of any kind should have no place in our society, period. I'm glad we can agree on that. I appreciate Balenciago's removal of the campaign and apology, or the least they can do. In speaking with them, I believe they understand the seriousness of the issue and will take the necessary measures for this to never happen again. As for my future with Balenciago, I am currently re-evaluating my relationship with the brand, basing it off their willingness to accept accountability for something that should never have happened to begin with, and the actions I'm expecting to see them take to protect children. So she's going to be giving them a second chance. I mean, people aren't giving Ye a second chance for just speaking his beliefs. And what Balenciago has done with its campaigns is way more disgusting than any words than come out of somebody's mouth. And Ye himself addressed why you haven't seen many celebrities denouncing Balenciago.
We saw Adidas freeze my accounts. We saw me get debanked. And you think, if that can happen to someone like me, what's happening to all of America? What's happening to all the world? If you have an opinion, even if you speak up, there's so many people that they're working a regular job, and they know if they say anything to their manager, then they'll lose their position, they'll lose their job.
Right.
You know, they tried to destroy me in press. They tried to destroy all of my businesses at the same time, and the world saw it, and no one's saying anything. You know, as far as like none of the celebrities, so this just shows you all celebrities are controlled. You don't see no celebrities talking about the Balenciaga situation, right? So that just shows you all of these celebrities out here, don't let them influence you in any way, because they're controlled by the people who really influence the world. There's no such thing as a celebrity influencer.
And he also did, I forgot to play it before, an intro to one of Nick Fuentes' America First episodes, which he now does on cozy.tv, which is also, that's the home of the Australia First show, spin-off, whether you can call it that, by Josh Howes, who's calling I jumped on last week.
I'm Ye. Welcome to America First. We got a great show for you tonight. I'm Ye. Welcome to America.
Now, of course, all of this, Ye running for president in 2024 and hiring Nick Fuentes and Milo, it's all Elon Musk's fault, even though Nick Fuentes and Milo are still banned from Twitter. And Musk, he's not making Twitter a free-for-all. He's made the hate speech or policies about what speech isn't allowed on Twitter quite clear. So he said there can be no Holocaust denial, Sandy Hook denialism, or 9/11 denialism. So you may disagree with his hate speech or denial policies, but at least they're clear. And if you want to say those things, you can go on Gab, which is run by Andrew Torba, who he is 100% for free speech, and obviously doesn't include pornography in his definition of free speech, which the US Supreme Court, they did rule that the First Amendment covers pornography as well, FYI. And now Twitter was supposed to like shut down, like it was supposed to collapse like last week, and it's still going. And Elon Musk has said usership, more users have signed up, like real users, not bots. There's more engagement. Everything is going up for Twitter, and even though he fired more than half the workforce, which just shows that they weren't doing anything. And one of the worst celebrities in the United States, Alyssa Milano, she put out, "I gave back my Tesla. I bought the Volkswagen EV. I love it. I'm not sure how advertisers can buy space on Twitter. Publicly traded companies' products being pushed in alignment with hate and white supremacy doesn't seem to be a winning business model." And the Hodge twins, those two, say gym and lifestyle. Conservative gym and lifestyle coaches, they replied, "Volkswagen was literally founded by the Nazis and Hitler." And Elon Musk replies, 100%. Now, Elon Musk, because we're hearing a lot more about his views since he is the chief twit, and we because he is bringing back most speech on Twitter. What he says is quite anticipated now by the world, and he said on Twitter recently, in replying to the Proud Elephant, "Would you support Ron DeSantis in 2024, Elon?" And he said yes. Now, in the past, Musk has supported Democrats, though he is definitely now against cancel culture. So he said that, "As a reminder, I was a significant supporter of the Obama-Biden presidency and reluctantly voted for Biden over Trump. My preference for the 2024 presidency is somewhat sensible and centrist. I had hoped that that would be the case for the Biden administration, but have been disappointed so far." So yes, and obviously, if the owner of Twitter expresses support for a Republican, then it's an extreme threat to democracy. But of course, if the previous owners of Twitter and Meta, YouTube all meet with the FBI and the DOJ to suppress right-wing misinformation, that's perfectly okay. That is strengthening democracy. Now it's coming towards the end of the show. We have, I think it's the final sitting week of the federal parliament before the end of year, and Anthony Albanese secured the vote of the Teal Independent Senator David Pocock to get his multi-employer bargaining legislation through the Senate, which basically there can be a bargaining agreement for a whole industry with multiple companies negotiated by a union. Senator Slayer said, "What's happened to the extremism inquiries, Lamo?" Well, we did have an update on the terror threat from Mike Burgess, the head of ASIO, today. So he announced that he was lowering the terrorism threat level from probable to possible. Well, of course, anything, including a terrorist attack, is always a possibility. We hope that it never occurs. So it had been at probable since 2014, when, of course, the Islamic State started to attempt to build its caliphate across Iraq and Syria. So remember that he told that federal extremism inquiry that he was, pretty sure there would be a terror attack in the next, 18 months, which hasn't happened. I'm a Stupid Moron says, "Hey Tim, are you going to the Melbourne Underground Film Festival? Would love to meet you in person. I'd buy you a beer." I am planning to go to the opening night on Saturday, the 3rd of December. I'll be releasing a report from Tiger Mountain with Richard Wollstonecroft tomorrow, where he'll it's basically an ad for it's shortened to Muff. There'll be an ad for Muff and talking about the program. Senator Slay says Tim stays away from Muff. Well, I might not this year. So yes, you might see me there, and please introduce yourself, because obviously I know your name, your YouTube names and the live chat, but I don't know who you really are, and so it'd be good to meet some of you in person at some point. I did meet up with Colin Penfolds when I travelled to New South Wales in the middle of this year, which was fantastic. We also have another significant development today in terms of the debate and campaign is going to go on for at least another year. The Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice to Parliament, the Federal National Party, they came to a clear position of opposing the constitutionally enshrined voice, saying that this is not going to help anybody. And Jacinta Price, who's the CLP senator from the Northern Territory caucus with the Nationals, said that Linda Burney going to remote communities with her Gucci bags, telling them what's good for them is not what those communities need. It would have been interesting if Jacinta Price had said if she was going up there with her Bellagio handbags there, that would have certainly, I think, been a sort of more lit comment there. And of course, the Nationals did well at the Victorian state election. They won 3 seats that had been held by independents, and Danny O'Brien, who is a state national MP, said that they were seriously reconsidering the coalition agreement. So there's 4 people who have put up their hands to be the state Liberal leader. So there's Brad Batten, Ryan Smith, Richard Reedon, and probably John Prosciutto if he gets over the line there. So Victorian Liberals will be a mess for a while yet. So as far as things stand at the moment, I'll likely be staying in Victoria in the short term. I saw that Topher Field released a video today that said that he and his wife, they're going to be moving with their children to another state there, but he's going to still focus on freedom education. So yes, we shall see what Dan's third term reign brings. But thank you everyone for watching tonight. Thank you for all of your viewership and support over the past few days during our election coverage. Make sure you keep checking out the unshackled.net. It's got our Unshackled production archive and also new articles. I just published one this afternoon summarizing the grievance Greens were senators, who of course are Lydia Thorpe and Maureen Faruqi. It's a comprehensive document of all their transgressions over their time in the parliament. So they're all there in one place, all of their appalling conduct there. So go to the unshackled.net to check that out. I don't know if there is going to be a Wilmsfront this Thursday. The final Trad Tasman talk occurs this Friday night with myself, Due, Stephen, and Origin, 6 p.m. Melbourne time on the Unshackled YouTube channel. So make sure you catch the grand finale. Of course, there'll continue to be a Tim's News Explosion every Monday at 8:30 p.m. Melbourne time on the Wilmsfront channels on YouTube, DLive, and Odyssey. So I'll still do this every Monday. I'm going to keep putting my book collection on these shelves behind me. It does take a bit of a while to bring them all in and put them in some sort of order. I'm not sure because I haven't got that good a quality camera. I didn't purchase. I want to get a new professional high quality camera, though I didn't purchase one at the Black Friday Cyber Monday sales. I may do on Boxing Day, but it's with the current camera. Can anyone see what the books are behind me? Let me know. But thank you again. Remember, stay safe, stay sane, try to stay positive. Don't be too black-pilled, and stay happy as well. I mean, we still live in, despite tough times, a beautiful, wondrous world. I mean, I'm still an ultimate optimist in humanity and this earth. So I will continue to be here to make sure that I'm doing my bit in this info war, as it's called, and I'll see you all later in the week. Good night, everybody.
Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.